How's it going? How are you all? Let's get started with the broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us. We're ready to talk about what's happening. In this internal war within the United States, Donald Trump is fighting against his own close associates, the ones who brought him to power. Now he has an internal war. There's a red alert due to a solar storm. Also, various updates on what's happening around the world. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and give us a like and share this as well. In the meantime, let's get to the information. This is one of today's updates, live as always. Thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for being here. A big shout out to the whole community. Alright, so let's start with this image that shows. These attacks that have been carried out by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, according to reports, were launched against the radical group Hezbollah. Rockets have been launched from this complex, a school complex in the Tir Simna area, which is in southern Lebanon, where they hid a launcher inside it, according to what the drone images show. With these infrared filters, Hezbollah had demonstrated, according to what the IDF says, that it is constantly using civilian infrastructure. This also relates to international law. The place was attacked by the IDF to eliminate the threats they posed to the Israelis. Well, that's what is said, or the interpretation given by the IDF regarding international law, a topic that also draws attention. Definitely, let's get into the details of what's happening in the world, to begin with. Well, this image also draws attention. Polish F-16 fighter jets and Rafale fighter jets, which are French, by the way. A Russian reconnaissance plane ILE-20 over the Baltic Sea. After it flew with its transponder turned off, NATO planes took off for identification and escort operations to get it out of the area. Well, it shouldn't have been near, let's say, or inside NATO territory itself. It's an issue that, keeps escalating. That continues to be a problem. And let's get into the details. How have you been? How's everything going? It's a pleasure to greet you. Look. There is an internal war going on right now involving Donald Trump against figures like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones. This person, this conspiracy theorist commentator, has been making a series of criticisms against Trump. All of them who used to be close have criticized what they don't agree with, right? Hey, we didn't like the war. Hey, what's going on? You didn't deliver on this issue. I don't know what. No, he's furious. He's really angry. By the way, a message he gave, interestingly, to those who follow the channel. Do you know what this refers to? Look, check out what was published 3 hours ago. I actually mentioned the same thing in an analysis we did about 12 or 13 hours ago. I mean, that was last night's live stream. Check out what Donald Trump said 3 hours ago. He says, the most powerful global reset. President Donald Trump. Just like that, world's most powerful reset, right? A powerful global reset, something like that, right? Impressive. Or he's watching Pepe and Vivo's broadcasts, right? Or, our analyses have that kind of precision, right? If you were watching last night's broadcast, we were actually talking about that as one of the theories we have about what's happening, about the Strait of Hormuz, about how this situation, who is it really affecting? Who is being affected by this whole problem of the blockade over oil? First of all, it affects China and it affects Asia. Secondly, Europe. But Europe is also caught up in that, let's say, financial and energy earthquake. There's a player and a region that could come out ahead. Mind you, as long as oil and energy sales don't get out of control. But within that reset, many other countries could be winners. Iran itself could also be a country that could come out ahead if this continues like this. Today, France responded saying, hey, what do you mean you're charging? You can't do that. You can't be charging millions of dollars just for passing through international waters. But what caught my attention and honestly surprised me was how shamelessly he talked about the topic of the global reset. I obviously had to go into his official real Donald Trump account on Truth Social to see if this was true. I said, how is this possible? That was the first thing he told me in the morning. He said, did you see that Trump? Well, it seems like he's watching Pepe and Vivo. Well, I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was really surprised that he made this comment because it's a topic that has obviously generated or is generating reactions. Among them, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was one of Trump's biggest supporters until a few months ago when everything changed. According to Marjorie's official account, there is the official account. Well, she says, among other things, the president has gone crazy, just like that. The president has gone crazy, says Taylor Greene herself. She says the following. While waging a war against Iran, breaking his campaign promises, I fought alongside Tucker Carlson, Maggie Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones to help get Trump elected, says Marjorie herself. Now he launches into an incoherent, rambling rant, attacking all of us in a single post. We never changed. Trump did. America first, he says America first. That's not the message Taylor Greene gives. And well, among the voices, among what Donald Trump accuses. He published an explosive message where he goes after Tucker Carlson and all the people I already mentioned, by accusing them of having criticized him, and of seeking attention with positions contrary to his political line. Yes, this is the post that Trump made about it. Trump directly calls these people stupid. He even tells them that they have little intellectual capacity, low IQ, and also little public credibility. That's credibility. Yes, the truth is that these people have little credibility, honestly. Just like him. He notes they've been expelled from traditional media and outlets. And I say this not to criticize him because I think his own actions speak for themselves. When he has said, well, I'm not going to do this, and the next day he does it, and I'm not going to do that, and the next day he does it. And then he says, I'm going to take on the regime of Iran, and then later he doesn't do it. Well, it's a constant stream of contradictions. That's his style, and it has always been his style. I honestly don't know what surprises these people. I mean, we saw it in the first term. We've seen it throughout his career as a host, a communicator, and also together with... Well, in all his stages as a businessman, those ups and downs he's had have been a constant. He's someone who has known how to be and stay relevant. In the media, he has known how to communicate those things that many people want to hear, which is also important and has been part of his style and his rhetoric. Right there, Donald Trump describes these people not only as stupid, but as third-rate groups. He reinforces the leadership narrative, claiming that he won the elections with a landslide victory and that MAGA is on his side, according to him. Although even other media outlets have been comparing these comments, like Tucker's. Carlson recalls the controversies of Megyn Kelly, defends the First Lady of France against comments from Candace Owens, escalating the confrontation. And he also hits Alex Jones hard, recalling his bankruptcy and the Sandy Hook case, using that to morally discredit him. He claims traditional media now back those commentators, which he sees as an alliance against him. He claims that these critics are trying to latch onto the MAGA movement without truly representing it. Well, it's an internal war. It's an internal fight. This isn't a right-wing issue. These groups are even more extreme than the far right, but they're at odds with each other. And this is a very, very important issue because in the end, elections are coming up as well. He's trapped. Donald Trump is trapped in a situation that's hard to get out of in a good way, in the sense that there's no possible way out. If he pulls out, his entire strategy will be harshly criticized because thousands of lives were lost. By the way, there were economic losses of billions of dollars for absolutely nothing. Whether he gets out or stays, he would clearly have to send troops into the territory, suffering even more losses. So really, the question here is which solution is the least bad? All solutions will be bad, but which is the least bad? Or which one causes the least harm? That's the only way out there is. Or escalate it to the highest level and try to see if the move works out for him, because maybe it could work out. But it's obvious. I mean, it would be something extraordinarily strange. All the military advisors say there's no way out of this situation. Another thing that stands out is that some strange things are happening inside Iran. Among them, well, another loss for the Iranians has been announced, in which this individual we're seeing, Kamal Karasi, is the Iranian foreign minister and advisor to the former supreme leader Ali Khamenei. He is also said to have lost his life. This supposedly happened as a result of injuries suffered from the bombing attributed to the United States on April 1st. It's not very clear whether it was the United States or Israel, but the point is that because of a bombing, this 81-year-old individual was seriously injured and has now lost his life. He reportedly played a very important role in foreign affairs. He was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Between 1997 and 2005, during the government of the reformist President Mohammad Khatami. In recent years, he held the position of Chief Strategic Advisor on International Relations, close to Ali Khamenei in that regard. Another issue that also draws attention is what is happening in Islamabad. All of this is getting interesting because things are about to happen. Let's go to the map. Because this is Pakistan's moment, and showing Pakistan, well, maybe it has more relevance in the region than people think. There we have Pakistan, a country with nuclear weapons, the only Muslim country with nuclear weapons. By the way, a democracy, also with its problems, with its corruption and all the rest. A democracy ultimately lacks strong ties with the United States but maintains a good relationship with China, even with many European countries. So well, Pakistan is now exercising that power that allows it to have all that investment it has had in weapons for many years, because of the conflict it has with India, because of the problems it has with India, but also with numerous internal crises and major political and economic issues. I'm sure that reporting and the situation there is experiencing an unusual scenario. The streets are empty right now. The army is deployed and the lockdown is total in key areas because basically they closed the country and closed the cities and said, no one moves here. Why? Because there's a key meeting. The United States is stepping in. J.D. Vance is there, by the way. He did go. They refused due to security concerns and risks to his life. Well, they sent him anyway. J.D. Vance is in Pakistan as well. The forces, or rather the Iranian leaders responsible for foreign relations, are already there. So it's like nobody moves. Because obviously there's a risk that this could escalate if something happens. So there's maximum security. Everything is, let's say, locked down. Let's put it that way, right? The streets, I insist, are empty. I'm sure they're reporting the conflict that started back then. Well, it was February 1st and February 29th, right? Well, they say this is causing the energy crisis to also affect Pakistan, and that's where Pakistan comes in, but also because Pakistan has a close relationship with the Chinese. So through China, there was a push for Pakistan to be the one to negotiate. The delegations are reportedly already en route from the United States. They're already there, right? They're on their way, but they're about to arrive. If they have arrived, high-level figures such as the Vice President and special envoys from the United States and from Iran will be participating. The Foreign Minister and key leaders of the political and military apparatus will be present. Gulf countries such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar will also be present, which raises the geopolitical level of these talks. And the embassy has prepared multiple possible venues for the meetings. It's not just one. Several are ready, just in case, to have them all on standby. If there's a security breach or anything like that, the Serena Hotel will be the potential epicenter of the meeting, which was completely evacuated and surrounded by a security perimeter of several kilometers. There isn't a set schedule yet. There are no schedules. There's nothing. No information is being given about anything. It's likely also for security. This is a crucial moment for Pakistan to show what it's made of. And honestly, up until now, the organization looks impressive, but we have to remember that within Pakistan there are also serious radical groups, so they will have to be extremely careful with that issue, and we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully everything goes well and we'll talk more about it later. In the meantime, let's move on to another topic. Meanwhile, in other matters, Israel itself is issuing a warning to the WHO. According to reports, and according to the same report from the Israeli government, they could be acting against ambulances if they are found in areas related to evacuations in Lebanon. In other words, if suddenly, Israel issues an evacuation order and there are ambulances there, they might be responding to an emergency and treating injured people, but they'll still get shot at. This is obvious. Come on, I understand that sometimes a radical group, because it's been known, it's been seen, might even use an ambulance to escape, etc. The situation is very unfortunate, but you can't attack all the ambulances just because of that. This keeps breaking the basic rules of a conflict. If you saw a red cross across, well, you didn't shoot at it. It's that simple. Reports indicate a critical shift in the Middle East conflict after new evidence emerged. That there have been attacks on ambulances as well. The warning to the WHO about Israel's decisions that could violate international regulations. The Israeli authorities said they may target ambulances in some areas. In Lebanon, where evacuations have been ordered not by the Lebanese authorities, but by the Israelis. This obviously draws attention, and just look at this. The attacks are happening in these areas. The warning was condemned by the WHO representative in Beirut, who recalled that healthcare personnel are protected by international humanitarian law. The situation is especially serious in Beirut, a densely populated city that already facing widespread displacement from bombings. In almost 5 weeks of attacks, 50 healthcare workers have already lost their lives. At least 150 have also been injured. Many were performing medical duties at the time of the explosions when they lost their lives or were injured. So it's an issue, I insist, that shouldn't become a serious situation. Another issue that draws attention is what's happening with these elections in Hungary. These are important elections. Viktor Orban, a figure closely linked to Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin, could lose this time. According to reports, according to the same polls, and according to what has been observed in recent days and weeks, the opposition has been growing impressively within Hungary. According to what they report, tension is at its peak. Prime Minister Viktor Orban made a serious accusation, claiming that his rivals are conspiring with foreign intelligence to destabilize the elections. That's what the president of Hungary says. According to reports, in the context of this situation, Orban is not leading in the polls, which would mark a critical moment for his political career. His main rival is Peter Magyar, a pro-European conservative candidate from the Tisza or Tisza party who could break more than a decade of dominance by Orban and his party. And there are constant accusations made against Orban himself and his party of having strong ties with Russia. Orban himself, well, he's already trying to say no, it's going to be a fraud, or whatever. I mean, he's already starting to show it, trying to discredit the elections in order to make his own moves. It's an issue that is obviously concerning given everything that's happening. At the same time, Vladimir Zelensky himself sends the following message.
Number 1 is the war. Therefore, I didn't want us to help them make money. If we get to a situation where the money was blocked by Hungary and they argue that it's because of the Druzhba pipeline, right? Thank you. But I think that's not the reason, and tomorrow or the day after there will be some other reason. But nevertheless, it's important to make it clear that they said the money is blocked because of the pipeline, the oil pipeline. So the EU says, look, this is the dialogue right now. You fix it, they will unblock it. We fix it, they must unblock it. Although I think these conditions are fundamentally wrong.
Well, what he's saying is what Viktor Orban has done. He is seen as an ally of Vladimir Putin. Why? Because Viktor Orban is blocking the aid that goes from Europe to Ukraine. He blocks them. They have the right to block, so they block them. And it's not just Hungary. But Slovakia as well? They go and block them. The money transfers, then Hungary says why? Well, because there's an oil pipeline that reaches Hungary and passes through Ukraine. Ukraine is up here to the north, so the oil pipeline comes from Russia, passes through Ukraine and reaches Hungary. When the contract ended, Hungary said, you know what, I'm not going to renew it because Russian oil won't be passing through here. The money from the oil they sell to Hungary is used for the war. So the contract ended. They fulfilled it 100%. But the contract was not renewed. And Hungary got very angry. So now they're blocking all the aid. They say it's because of the pipeline. But well, we know this is about something else. Now, another issue that also draws attention in the midst of these disputes, it's what's happening with the cancellation of vacation flights in different parts of the world. To give you an example, what's happening in the United Kingdom has been extremely concerning. Because this rise in prices due to the issue with oil is causing constant flight cancellations. Europe is facing an unprecedented air crisis due to a shortage of jet fuel in the coming weeks. During that time, it won't just be about prices, there will also be very little fuel. The problem stems from the conflict currently unfolding in the Strait of Hormuz, in which Iran has effectively blocked the strait. This situation leads to a shortage of fuel for aviation. Airport authorities warn that in just 3 weeks there could be a shortage in the United Kingdom. In other words, in the next 3 weeks, they would have to start limiting flights. And that's also serious. Prices have already gone up, but now, not even with money, there would be no gasoline at all. They would have to reserve fuel only for official travel or medical emergencies. An issue that also causes a lot of problems for Europeans. Europe depends on almost 60% of its oil coming from the Gulf. That refined oil that comes from the Gulf is the majority of what they receive. Asia depends on it for between 80 and 90%, and Europe for 60%. It's like being left without most of their fuel. That's obviously an issue, apart from gas, which is also another important thing. So, watch out, that's going to happen in that area. Well, there's already a shortage of oil. If you had a trip planned to Europe, if you had one, well, in a month or two, you'll have to pay close attention to see how the situation develops, because you might have to cancel it. It's also an important issue. So, let's move on to other interesting topics according to what has been reported. This comes from this image. Let's see if I can see it over here. It's a pickup truck. It's one of the images that have been coming out from those protests that happened in Iran. Do you remember? They would send in the Basij and to shoot at the population. And there they go. I mean, these trucks are moving forward. There are 3 armed trucks and they're shooting towards where the people are. Well, it's something that's been seen many times in many images where they literally show how they're attacking them, how they're shooting at them. It's something that, well, draws attention and obviously continues to generate criticism. Another thing that also draws attention is that the spokesperson for the National Security Committee of the Iranian Parliament, this individual we're seeing there, he gave the following message. His name is Abraham Rasse. He says it would be preferable for our diplomats not to travel to Pakistan. But if they do, they should take a Khaibar Shakan missile with them so that the enemy understands that if they do not submit to the Iranian diplomats, they will be forced to submit to the Iranian missiles. In other words, what he is saying is that the United States and American diplomats have to submit to whatever the Iranian diplomats dictate. That is the message that Iran is giving. They clearly aren't going into the negotiations. They are going to make demands. What they want, according to what he says. Obviously, that's it. The tone in which this issue is being addressed is heated, and well, that's it. Let's move on to other matters. I'm sure they'll report it. Lately, a lot of people have been getting fired. Among them, it was known that Tulsi Gabbard, the director of intelligence, was also going to be fired. They fired Pam Bondi, they fired Kristi Noem, they fired several of the most important military officials at the Pentagon. They carried out a complete purge. In both the White House and the Pentagon. But one of the people who was possibly going to be fired among them is also Kash Patel from the FBI, and also Tulsi Gabbard herself, as I mentioned. According to reports, there was a move by Roger Stone, a media figure close to Donald Trump, who had influenced them not to fire her. Let's go into the details of what is known about this move. Sources say Donald Trump nearly removed the head of intelligence, planning to leave her out. The trigger was her stance during a recent testimony in Congress about global threats, especially Iran, because as intelligence director, she acknowledged that the Iranian regime is not close to collapsing, that the structure, she says, has been weakened but is still intact, she says. That's what Gabbard herself says. And Trump didn't like that. Gabbard did not strongly support the aggressive stance against Iran. This also caused discomfort for Trump. According to multiple advisors, the president interpreted this as a lack of alignment with his strategy, and this caused him to feel undermined. He was very upset, but that's when Roger Stone stepped in. By the way, Roger Stone. He was the one who planted the idea in Trump's mind to become president. He's ultimately the one responsible, let's say, for Trump becoming president. He was the one who encouraged him, the one who believed, and the one who saw back in the 80s that Trump could become president. This Roger Stone is a highly controversial, polarizing character, very much in the Trump style. There's a really great documentary, I recommend it. It's on Netflix, it's called something like Get to Know Roger Stone or something like that. Just search Roger Stone. You'll see it. It's interesting because you understand how the Trump phenomenon happened. And well, according to reports, Roger Stone turned out to be one of Trump's oldest and most influential allies. Stone intervened directly and, according to sources, gave the president a reprimand so he would reconsider the decision. His main argument was that firing Gabbard in that context would send a signal of weakness and internal division. Additionally, it could generate political turbulence at a delicate moment in foreign policy. The Trump-Gabbard relationship. It is now clearly strained, which could affect future strategic decisions. It also highlights the influence of longtime figures like Stone, even though Stone seems to be off the scene now. Stone hardly ever appears anymore, but it turns out he still has some influence over Donald Trump. Gabbard's stay could be temporary if the differences keep escalating in the coming weeks, because Trump doesn't forget these things, and sooner or later he will go after this trend. Meanwhile, it's interesting that Roger Stone shows up at this time when suddenly everyone had basically forgotten about him in that sense. Let's move on to other important matters. On other topics, there's also this image being shown where you can see the movement of ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. According to reports, since the Strait of Hormuz supposedly reopened, only 10 ships have passed through. In other words, it's practically closed. They're not passing. Donald Trump reported he announced a ceasefire. It was supposed to last 2 weeks, but the strait had to be opened for them, which actually didn't happen, and the few ships that have passed have been paying. The ships are still stuck there in massive congestion, stopped, waiting to be able to pass. Look, let's move on to other matters in just a moment. We'll be back with another live update. Thank you for commenting, for super chatting, for the memberships, for simply being here with us every day. We are updating several times a day. Life. If you're watching us on replay, also leave us a like. And well, sending you a big hug. Take care. See you later. Goodbye.